there was a delay for you and Miss Hodges to get married?
There's a requirement that she didn't want to marry somebody I won't say it wrong way. She didn't want to be drugged into my tax issues. So that's the best way to say that. So I had to clean up. So prior to that, my tax problem were being taken out of my retirement account during the whole time.
And with regard to the community tax debt, how was that dealt with?
Okay, starting and Miss Hodges ran the finances as far as that go, because she wanted to make sure I didn't screw it up. I followed the procedure, so she followed all the taxes. If you go back with all the documents, you can see we used her accounting firm somewhere in Nevada up to 2018. Then in 2018, and I didn't know this because she always did the taxes because she knew exactly how to do it. She's a financial analyst for the fourth largest city in America. So I trusted, that I was never gonna have a problem. But she filed the taxes, and starting in 2018, she started filing married, married separate, right? Which
Wait. Let me focus you back a little bit. She started. How were the community tax liabilities handled? What did y'all do?
Well, what did I do? Okay, so she would do all the filing. This is the money I need. I give her the money, and she'd pay it, or we didn't have to pay anything. So, but what it was just simple. We're gonna pay this, and Miss Hodges is not gonna let me live in a house, pay no taxes, rent free in her house. She would not allow it. She made sure that was a big priority, but get these taxes, and she used to demand. Put it this way, matter of fact, in February, she had all the 1099s for 2019. She was about to file them. I give all the stuff. I give all the banking stuff, right? But the only thing she didn't have was probably something I hadn't got yet. But she was the person that managed our financial tax part, but she didn't want to be a problem to her. And she definitely, that was her thing. Like, it was my thing to cook the food and grill food. That was my
Objection, non-responsive at this point, Judge.
Okay, but I know you want to tell everything, but we just need to focus.
Yes, Ms. Nance.
Okay, calm down. Okay, so who paid the taxes?
And you have to say she paid the taxes because she wrote the check for the money I gave her. But
Did you give her the money?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so she paid them and you gave her the money.
Right, because that was what her thing was. And I've talked to the
Objection, non-responsive, Judge.
Sustained after correct.
What have you done since then, Mr. Hodges?
The only reason I know what happened now, I had to call to get records from the tax years of 2011 to 2016, which I called the firm, got a hold of the firm that was doing that. It was in, I guess, I would say Nevada, but they provided them to me. And then that's what they said. She didn't do it, this returned in.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay, Mr. Hodges, now, what are you trying to explain?
Well, I'm trying to explain is the documents in her own documents she's provided, it shows who they were filed with. It shows that's her organization. So she ran that department. And she's a person that she's an analyst. I'm a knucklehead. I don't know how to do tax returns, but she knew what she was doing. She filed taxes. And that's what I'm.
So she filed the taxes for the family?
Yes.
Okay.
And so when she says, when she paid all the tax, that's a true statement, but she paid them for us as a family, as a unit. That's what I'm trying to say.
And you also, did you contribute towards the payment of the taxes?
Yes, Ms. Sphinx, I did.
Okay, so that's what you're just trying to clarify with the court.
Yes, Ms. Sphinx.
And you paid your PenFed account, paid your your taxes, your separate taxes debt through your retirement money.
Yes, Ms. Sphinx.
Objection, leading, Judge.
I'm just clarifying, Judge.
Sustained.
Okay. All right. Now, with regard to the automobile accident that you had in 2018 or what year was it?
I would say, I'm a little bit vague on. I would say it's 2018. Yes,
okay. You got a $46,000 settlement.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you know what the breakdown of what was the settlement for? Was it for?
It was for pain, injury, and suffering for my life. Where if I couldn't just it was for I had to get an operation on my shoulder, right? So it was pain and injury for the rest of my life.
Okay, and what did you do with the money?
I paid off bills that we owed. I paid off my truck. Paid off all credit cards from trips we had taken, Christmas money we spent.
Did you give Ms. Hodges any of that money?
Yes, I did. I gave Ms.
Okay.
Hodges money, and I gave Mary, which is a dear friend of the family, money at her behest.
Okay, and we are looking at respondents 61. Let me see where we are. Sorry, Judge, I'm trying to get to 61.
Okay.
At the back of the book. There's 61. Okay. And our respondent 61, Mr. Hodges. Do you see, what is respondent 61?
It is my one of my account.
Okay, it's your Chase account.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do you see on respondent 61? Second page, does that show that you deposited the $46,000 check?
Yes, ma'am. Shows.
Okay, and let's go to the fourth page. And does that show where there was a $6,500 withdrawal on March 13th?
Yes, ma'am. 6,500.
And what did you do with that 6,500?
I gave it to Lynn Hodges.
Okay, and if we will go to 62, R62. Page 2 of, what is R62?
R62 is Lynn Hodges' Wells Fargo account.
Okay, and if you go to page 2, 313, what does that show?
It shows she deposited $6,500.
Okay. So you heard her testify that she didn't know what happened to the money. Does this show that she got $6,500 of the money?
Yes, Ms. Phoenix.
Okay. And you did other things, community things with that money, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
$15,000 settlement. Let's look at R59. $59.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Phoenix.
$59.
R59, right here.
And what is R59?
It's a asset settlement account.
Okay, and you received how much money for that accident? When was the accident?
I believe the accident was on, it was on the 6th of February,
Of what year?
2020.
Okay, and how much money did you receive for that accident?
It was like
Ms.
19.
Phoenix, I'm having a hard time hearing you, man. You're
I'm sorry.
mumbling or the audio is just not catching your voice.
Let me turn it up.
Thank you, ma'am.
There you go. How's that, Mrs. Zan? Is
It's
that
better, ma'am.
Yeah, I can
Thank
hear
you.
you better too. Sorry about that. Okay, what is R59?
It's an asset settlement account.
Okay, and how much did you get for that accident?
Around 19,000. It was the payment for the 2015 F-150.
Oh, okay, all right, and let's see, let's look at R64.
Okay.
Where's R64?
R16 is one of my Chase accounts.
Okay, and going over. What did you do with that 15,000?
What I did with that 15,000 was I bought furniture. I replaced the vehicle that was destroyed that was total loss on the 6th of February by Lynn Hodges. But I'm not saying she caused the accident. I replaced that vehicle with a truck.
Okay, and you bought furniture. Why did you buy furniture?
I needed someone to put my head down at night. I needed a place to,
Were you and Ms. Hodges together?
no, I was not.
What date was this? Did you get this check?
It was sometime in March, and I can't tell you exactly when in March. And the reason I can say that is because it never came to me,
Okay.
right? And I called them. They said they sent it to my house. And I told them again.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you remember what happened to this particular check? Did something unusual happen with it?
It was placed in discovery, her discovery. I mean,
What I'm saying is, this check was for 15,000.
yes,
It came to you.
right.
How did it come to you?
Oh, I got a direct deposit in my check account because their check was lost. They determined it was lost.
Okay, so the check was lost, you put it in your account.
Right.
Okay, and then you bought furniture.
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you have to buy furniture?
To live, to sleep, to help.
What year was this?
This is in 2020.
This is when you and Ms. Hodges broke up?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you leave the house with anything?
I had no furniture on. I just had clothes enough to fit inside a Toyota Prius.
So you just had some clothing and that's it?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you have to buy new furniture?
I had to buy new furniture. I had to buy towels, a TV,
Everything.
pots and pans. I didn't know what it was like. I lived in a house where everything's, you just got it, I had to buy food, cleaning supplies. I didn't know what it was like. I have to buy cleaning supplies.
But you had to buy all that stuff?
Yes, I started from scratch.
Okay. With regard to the dog, did you recall the last time we were in court, we went through a bunch of expenditures with what was it?
Wolfgang Bakery.
Wolfgang Bakery. And not only Wolfgang, but what other dog stuff was going on?
There was something, I'm trying to remember the street it was on, but
Denny's?
Denny's Doghouse.
Yes, that was going on.
Right, and it kept asking me, you were asking me about a place that was on a street. That's the veterinary clinic. Now, I was not thinking, but it's a veterinary clinic where she's getting treatment at. That's where Justin was going for treatment.
Okay.
It didn't have the name of the veterinary clinic. It just said the street. So,
Okay.
but I now recognize. I thought looking at, oh, that's the vet.
Okay, so she was spending money on the vet for treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
On Wolfgang, and on Denny's
Doghouse, daycare for dog.
Were you aware that she was spending this kind of money?
Not this kind of money, but I was aware she was taking the dog to the vet. I not aware how much it costs.
Okay, so it was not your agreement to spend this kind of money on the dog?
No, ma'am.
Okay. With regard to, I'm pulling it together, Judge. I'm trying to get through it.
You're fine.
Okay, I'm just letting you know, I've got it kind of written out. I'm looking for my notes. With regard to Mrs. Hodges, do you recall that she testified that you were spending money on more than one person when you went out to dinner?
I do recall that conversation.
Tell the court why you would expend money on more than one person for dinner.
What happens is I buy people dinners. I buy my clients, dinner, like attorneys, different clerks,
Okay.
to get at, I'm a small fry. I just recently, for some of my efforts I've done, now I'm working on a big case now that involved, the asteroid scene. But that came from paying for attorneys to, hey, have a good time, but they give you work.
Okay,
And in my line of business, I pay people like security guards
yeah,
that tell me when somebody's coming in that building so I can get them. I pay neighbors and stuff,
Yeah.
that same kind of money, just so you can catch that person, because some cases they want that person. You can't, they want to be personally served. You can't just post it on the door. So and one of my better clients, I was asked about the Moran. I didn't know what the Moran was, but when I look back, because he called me, he sent me a thank you card. I paid for him and his wife to spend a weekend in Moran. The Moran Hotel is in the city center, so he stayed there with his wife. He's a very nice attorney, and he's directed so much work to me. That was a benefit to me. And like I said, a guard will help me. A nosy neighbor, I'll give a nosy neighbor money.
You need to place an emergency call.
And it's also
I can help you with
to get
specific questions.
to
But
get
how to connect to
certain
Rebuttal.
information.
To learn more about what I can do.
People will
take a
actually,
look at the
you have to
transaction, the electric-
negotiate different things. So it'll take you $50 to get access someplace or to open the door for you. That's nothing for me to pay somebody's, and
let me ask you this, Mr. Hodges. When you take cash withdrawals out of your account, and there have been some cash withdrawals taken out, tell the court why you have taken these cash withdrawals out and what you did with them.
I take
Maybe
it.
I need to break that into two questions, Judge. Why are you taking cash withdrawals?
Because people that you're doing stuff for, or they want cash. $20 to get you access into a gated community. $25 will get you into a high-rise, secure high-rise.
Okay.
And they won't, hey, I got $20, let me in this door. They let you in that door.
Okay, so you use the money for access.
Access and to
Get information. Okay. Now, is there another reason that you were taking out cash withdrawals during this period of time that you moved out? And
one of the biggest reasons was I was concerned about Miss Hodges knowing my physical address.
okay,
I had my I always thought someone was following me around, didn't know who it was. Second day I had my truck, somebody broke out my window.
okay,
I can't say Miss Hodges did, but in a place where it's right in a nice area, it's the only truck that had a window broken. It was mine. Out of all the other trucks, there was a whole bunch of trucks. They broke out my window. So I protected my address and I paid a lot more stuff in cash, as much as I could, because I didn't want to give away my location in any way possible.
how much was your rent?
Anywhere from $1,200 to $1,400.
That was your monthly rent for your residence?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you pay that in check or cash?
Well, I paid both. Well, sometimes I had no choice. I had to pay in a check. They wouldn't take cash, and sometimes they would take cash. So I paid both ways, but I would go draw the money out to pay them.
Okay, so if there are large size cash withdrawals, was there reasons for you to have cash money on hand?
Yes, Ms. Spinks.
Okay. Now, with regard to these large restaurant tabs, did you look at Mrs. Hodges spending some of her bank statements?
Yes.
And did you note any large expenditures on her part?
Yes.
What did you note?
Okay, so the Toasty Goat restaurant she went to in October 10/10/20, she spent $116.65.
10/10/20?
Yes, October the 10th,
Okay, 19/20.
$116. If I did exactly what Ms. Hodges did, look at the average meal at the Toast Elk is $20 or $25.
Okay. So
That would appear that she was not alone by herself. She was with somebody else, just like mine. Okay.
yes, and with regard to yours, you said that did you take clients out to dinner?
Some clients I took to lunch. Some clients I paid for the dinner. I just paid for it. You can buy it and they show up. That's all you gotta do. You don't have to be there.
Okay.
I bought tickets for events and stuff that way because, hey, if you ever deal with Harris County, you better,
You have to shell out.
shell out, because I'm not a big firm, I'm a little guy. The big
Okay.
guys feed the whole third floor legal department, and they get what they want. So hey, it's taking a little time. I'm trying to do the best I can. So
Okay.
if one of the clerks will help me out, hey, I want to eat at Denny's or something, I'll pay for it and just show up,
Okay.
So I necessarily was not there, I just
Yeah.
paid for it.
Okay, and with regard to, so if you have a large restaurant tab, that doesn't necessarily mean you were there.
Right.
Okay, now, Mrs. Hodges said that you never did that before. Is that true?
No, that would be incorrect, man.
Now, did Mrs. Hodges have any dealing with your business?
When we first started, yes.
Okay.
And then
Then what? Then after a while, what happened?
she met me and Lynn Hodges, my nephew, and Daniel Sauer, which was the partner working with me at that time. We all went to dinner. During the dinners, Daniel Sauer
Oh,
said,
wait, you can't say what she said.
Okay.
She made a comment.
Daniel Sauer made a comment that Lynn was the home spouse and she was the office spouse.
Okay,
From that point on, she didn't discuss anything. It was a bitter thing about that work, because it was a joke to me, but it was a serious thing with Miss Hodges, and she didn't appreciate what the comment that Danielle Sauer, that she was the office spouse and Lynn Hodges was the home spouse. That cut all. She didn't want to mess with it no more. She didn't want to have nothing to do with that office, because that pissed her off.
and so she was not involved in your day-to-day operation.
She was not involved in my daily operation.
And was she involved in any operation?
No, because I didn't know. At that time, I was, when we first started, she helped me with skip trace. She helped me look up stuff. But by that time, I was up to speed. I'll say a couple times before we went to dinner, she went with me on a sort of paper. When she sat in the car, I went to sort of paper like in Richmond. She'd sit in the car and I'd run in and knock on the door because I had an appointment. But other than that, no, she was just done. And the only she went there was because I was going to eat or do something else.
Okay, so she doesn't know who you wined and dined or what you did to get information or who you gave money to or anything like that.
No, ma'am.
Okay. With regard to, let me see. That's ours. Just give me a moment. Let me see the petition. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Now, if you will look on, let's see, summary of spending based on account statements 9908 for, looks like 7/1 to 7/30/21. Are you there, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you look at that summary of spending, what they're saying, they've included in that summary of spending, non-FDA, non-medical ED treatment, $25.99. Is that correct?
Yes.
And they're asking the court to not allow that because it's waste and fraud. Is that correct?
Yes, Ms. Sphinx. That's what it stated.
And they have a total of $22,614.75.
Yes, Ms. Sphinx.
Is that total correct?
Yes.
No.
I mean, it's incorrect what they put.
Yeah.
I'm not agreeing with it.
Okay. So if you add up what they have here as what they consider to be waste, does it add up to $22,614?
No.
So they have an incorrect total there. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am. It appears that they just put stuff in and bulked it up. I can't explain it.
Okay, and let's see, with regard to they're saying average total spending for the missing months, August through October. Would it be August through October? Our discovery deadline was October 15th.
Correct.
So would it be August through October or August through September?
It should be August through September.
Okay, because October was not finished, the month wasn't finished,
Correct.
so we wouldn't have been able to give them October, correct?
No, ma'am, we'll never give it to them.
Okay, so that's another incorrect statement that they put in this document. Is that? Would you
I'm gonna
agree with-
object as to leading.
Sustained.
Okay, is that correct or incorrect?
It's an incorrect statement.
Okay,
Their math is incorrect.
and their math is incorrect. Now, if you'll note on 6/8/21 of Lynn Hodges' statement for June and July. Let's see, that would be exhibit R26. Okay, so let's look for R right there. R26. Okay, let me look at the page. Let me look at this. R26, page 40. Page 40.
This is. Sure. Oh, where's that?
Six, 8/18/21. That's 8. 6/18/21, there's a charge for,
$3,354.
who is Andrew Lyos, MD?
I don't know, Ms. Phoenix.
What is his profession?
Looks like he's a plastic surgeon.
So if they're asking that your ED treatment be denied, should the plastic surgery be
Judge,
denied?
I'm gonna object as to what Mr. Hodges is referencing and looking at when he's stating it looks like he's a plastic surgeon, Judge, because I don't believe that's a document that's been offered or admitted into evidence.
Sustained.
The judge, can the document be removed from the witness while he's testifying?
Judge, this is,
If he's
He's not
referencing, if
he's
he's
not
referencing,
referencing.
hold on, if he's referencing a document that's not in evidence, he's not allowed to do that. So if it's in evidence, it's fine for him to be looking at it, but he shouldn't be looking at stuff that's not in evidence.
No, Judge, this is just a shorthand rendition of what his testimony would be. But we're not, it's not in evidence, Judge. But the Lynn Hodges statement is in evidence.
Yeah, I've got that in front of me. I'm looking at that, but I don't want him testifying from something that's not in evidence.
Okay, Judge, it was just something that I had a note on, but, okay,
Right.
Judge, sorry about that. There you go. And Mr. Hodges, if you'll look at R 26, page 47. Page 40, 7/23/21. Right here. Do
Okay,
you see that charge?
yes, it's another charge, the same doctor for $668.
Okay, so do you know if Ms. Hodges had any sort of cosmetic surgery?
No, I do not.
Okay, but if it is for cosmetic surgery, should it be allowed or should it be considered waste and reimbursed to the community?
It should be considered waste and reimbursement to the community.
Okay. Hold on one second. Now, Mr. Hodges, have you been making payments? Have you been making payments for Mrs. Hodges' auto and homeowners insurance?
Yes, I have.
How long?
Since we've been married, never stopped.
Okay, and when you filed, or when she filed for divorce, did you continue to make those payments?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because it was it was a requirement, and it was part of a standing order
Part of the standing order, and what was the standing order?
that I couldn't change any I couldn't remove for anything. I had to continue to make the payments, and I couldn't remove or for changing any documentations without the court's permission.
Okay, so you kept paying for her homeowners and automobile insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she aware that you were making those payments?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know she was aware?
3 ways. The first way was that I was sent I was contacted that I had to fill out a paper sometime like in June, July, that authorized her access to the account. The next
To
way,
which account?
to the USAA account, which she has full, she can do anything she wants to the USAA account. So it was like a waiver, and they called me and they've asked me several different questions. I said, and they said, okay, she's authorized, yes. So she had full authorization, which I think that was in one of the exhibits that were provided, where there's a form that shows I authorize her to make any adjustment, do anything she wants with the USAA policy.
Okay, and USAA was for homeowners and auto?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so she was authorized to do whatever she needed to do.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
when was that about?
Well, we got some type of message that she didn't have access to the account. So I was forwarded this letter I had to sign and authorize, and I signed it immediately and sent it back over to him. So
But about what month or
I want to say like March or just earlier this year.
this year?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And a couple of things, like Mr. Zan doing my deposition this year, he made reference to did I quit paying insurance? I said no. And then he said, didn't you notice your bill got?
Do what?
He asked me if my insurance bill was less. I said no, and didn't think much of it. The other day, when we was here, Ms. Lynn testified that I took her and removed it from the insurance on last year and took her off the insurance. And she had to get her own insurance with another agency. Well, I knew that was not right, so I just had to go back. I went back and looked, right?
Okay.
And I printed my own documents off my insurance claim, which is not anything else, but I checked. Currently, she's covered on our auto insurance policy through, and these are my documents, through 27 February 2022, and that's the Yukon. I also have put the homeowner's policy.
Judge, I'm objected to testifying from documents not admitted into evidence, once again.
Well, yes, sir. I don't know if you're looking at your notes that are not, but you just have to testify from your memory. You may have talked to USAA and they may have confirmed that she was covered, but I want you to testify from your memory. You're not allowed to look at documents when you're testifying unless they're in evidence. And
Okay,
if you're looking at- hold on.
the
if
only
you're-
thing I'm saying, judges, I looked
I
this
know.
up and I wrote notes. These are my notes. This is like my notes, so I would know, so I will give you a false statement.
Well, but if you take notes, you just need, you don't want to take those to the stand because
Okay, well, I'm
Hold
trying to
on.
give an accurate testimony. I understand, Judge. I can
Well,
tell it.
the reason I'm telling you that is because if it was a live hearing, we're all here and you're reviewing notes. Well, the other lawyer, a lot of times will say, Judge, I want to look at those notes, and they're allowed to go through all of your notes. And that's just a rule that we have. So with Zoom, it makes it a lot more difficult to do that. So the best thing to do is please put your notes away because I don't want to have issues
Let me
come
have-
up where someone wants to review your notes. And that's difficult to do. So just testify from your memory. If you
Yes, sir.
don't remember something, and this goes to you as well, Ms. Hodges, then you just simply say you don't recall. And Ms. Hodges, you did that at times. So Mr. Hodges, same thing. If you don't remember, it's okay. This court does not expect you to know the answer to every single question these lawyers are going to ask you. If it's an important topic, the lawyers know how to refresh your memory. And then they can show you a document to help trigger your memory and get you to get that testimony in front of me. But we have to make sure we're following rules. And one of the rules is just, you've got to testify from your memory, not be looking at documents that are not in evidence. All right, we're going to continue. Ms. Phoenix, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. And Mr. Hodges, you were trying to tell the court
Yes,
when, what date?
okay. And I saw a claim where she had some type of auto claim from April of 2021 this year, auto claim, which they fixed her car, the Yukon. Then I saw where she filed a,
Judge, I'm gonna object as it's based on hearsay.
Sustain.
Judge, I'm gonna offer in the evidence. Let me do this. Mr. Hodges, do you have documentation that you received from USAA that you recently printed off from USAA?
yes, ma'am, I do.
And these documents are reflective of homeowners and automobile claims
Yes.
by Ms. Hodges.
Yes, ma'am.
And these are recent claims.
Yes, ma'am.
And have you modified these exhibits or made any changes to these exhibits?
No, I have not.
And they are, where did you get them?
Straight off the USA site.
You got them off the USAA website,
Yes, ma'am.
and you've not made any alterations to them?
No, ma'am.
And they reflect claims made by the petitioner?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Judge, we'd like to offer in the evidence R3 and R4. Or not 3 and 4, I'm sorry, let me look at my paperwork, I'll tell you. What was that new number?
That'd be R68 and R69.
I'm sorry, yes, Judge, I can't find my sheet, but yes, those last two.
Any objection to R68 and R69?
Yes, Judge, because I think it's a misrepresentation of what the documents reflect. And then not to mention it's hearsay, Judge, and these were not documents tendered during discovery.
All right, Ms. Phoenix, if you can address the hearsay objection.
Judge, these are not for the, offered for the truth of the matter asserted. We're just offering them to show that there were claims made by Ms. Hodges to these insurance, to this insurance company at a time that she claimed that she had, she was not insured by this company, but she made claims. So we're not, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted, but just to show her actions. And it's really to show that it's contrary to her testimony.
Mr. Zan.
Judge, Ms. Hodges' testimony was that after June 22nd, Judge, that's when she no longer had insurance on her home or her vehicle, Judge. They're trying to present documents that mislead the court, Judge, in stating that there were claims filed. But yes, there were claims filed, Judge, after the insurance had terminated, but for issues that arose while the home was under the insurance policy. So for example, Judge, if a roof has hail damage and you don't file a claim until after the policy lapses, but it was damage incurred while the policy was in place,
Right.
those are valid claims, and it doesn't mean that insurance is in place as of now, Judge. It means insurance was in place, but not that there's current insurance. And I think
Well-
that's what I'm having an issue with, Judge.
Hold on. So Miss Phoenix, I'm kind of with you from the standpoint of it's being offered for the limited purpose to show that insurance was in existence on this day, but it doesn't sound like that document's going to do that for me. And so then therefore, I do think it's a hearsay document. I heard his testimony and I think that's his testimony, and Mr. Zan can cross him on that. But I think the objection to R68 and R69 sustained. Those are
Okay.
not.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, so Mr. Hodges, once you looked and determined that there were some claims made, then you printed off some documents.
Yes.
Okay,
And
go ahead. And what else
also
did you do?
verified that she's still currently covered by auto and the home is still covered.
By USAA?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you've been complying with the injunctions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I suppose now that you're aware that she has her own health, homeowners and auto insurance, are you gonna do anything about that, or are you gonna just keep her covered?
My intent is, once this divorce proceedings over, if the court says I'm no longer responsible for the house, if I'm no longer responsible for a car, then I will remove her, not until the time I have a current court order in place. I'm following that order that was put in place
Okay,
by the previous court.
okay. Judge, let me look and see, I might be done. Just give me one moment to look at my
Okay.
notes. Hold on.
Judge, I would ask that the witness not look at his cell phone and while he's on the stand.
It's sustained.
Were you
Just-
looking at this?
or just
I-
wait
I
until
reached-
you get off the stand to look at things like that.
Okay,
I
Judge.
okay. Mr. Hodges, I'm gonna show you what's exhibit R 56.
yes,
Can you
ma'am.
look at that? What is that document?
It's a governmental record of affidavit.
Okay, and, oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, and I'm gonna show you what, and this is exhibit R 56, Judge. It's already, I think it's been admitted.
It's not.
Oh, it's not been admitted. Judge, this is these are records. Let's see. That were maintained in the regular course of business, Judge. These are, I'd like to offer this exhibit into evidence because these are records from the city. They were maintained in the regular course of business. And we provided this to Mr. Zan during discovery. And these are
Is there a-
business.
For
business
my,
records.
just for my brain, is there a business records affidavit with the statements? or
Yes,
not?
yes, Judge, there's a business governmental records affidavit.
Okay.
It's 67 pages.
Response, Mr. Zan?
I'm looking at the documents, Judge, to see what they exactly are to refresh my memory. Judge, I'm going to object as to relevance and failure to lay the proper predicate for a governmental record.
What's the relevance, Ms. Phoenix?
Judge, this shows violation of the injunctions by Ms. Hodges by changing her beneficiary during the time that the court had injunctions in place that said not to make any changes.
And you said that there's a business records affidavit on file with these documents.
There's one right on the top of the document, Judge. It's R56.
All right, the objection to R56 is overruled. R56 is admitted.
Judge, can I ask if that business record has been filed?
I asked, you said it had.
It has been filed with the court? With the,
I don't see a file stamp on it, Your Honor.
yes, one moment, Judge. Yes, one moment. I'll verify that. Just one moment, Judge.
Sure. If you want to give me the date, I can look as well, but.
Okay, I'll get it.
I think I've located the filing when,
Is it the one on November the 2nd, Judge?
Judge, that's what I just got, November 2nd.
that's correct. I have it in front of me. It's November 2nd.
Okay, I see it now, Your Honor. I'm looking in the court's file.
Hold on. Right here. Second, Judge. Okay, Judge, sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right,
You may continue.
thank you, Judge. Mr. Hodges, I would like to show you, let me see what page we should. Judge, I'm sorry, these pages aren't numbered.
It's
So
okay.
we're just gonna have to kind of go through and figure out where they are. But we're looking at City of Houston, voluntary life insurance dated 2/1/18. That shows that Mr. Hodges, what does this document show for voluntary life insurance?
It shows I'm the beneficiary.
Okay, 100% primary.
Yes, primary. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's on 2/1/18.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and go on through, pass the marriage license. H2219, basic life insurance. Who is the basic life insurance policy to?
Me. Gary. Mary Molina.
Okay,
She
that's H2219 for basic life.
Hold on, Ms.
Okay,
Phoenix, your voice is dropping off me. I didn't hear that
I'm
question.
sorry, basic life insurance on H2219 Mary Molina. Now we're going to death termination paid beneficiary designation 5/20/20. This was after they broke up. Mr. Hodges, who is the primary beneficiary?
Mary Molina. Oh, Gary Hodges, and then Mary Molina had added. I can't just contingent beneficiary.
Is who?
Mary Molina.
Okay, so that's in May. We're looking at. Let's see.
Still May. This year.
We're looking at 5. Oh God, these dates. 5/14/21, which was during the time of, was this during the time of the injunction?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does it show happened 5/14/21?
My name was removed and Mary Molina was put in 100%
As what?
as the primary beneficiary.
Okay, and that was during the time that injunctions were in place not to change anything?
Yes, Ms. Phoenix.
And then if we go to the next page.
Miss Phoenix, can you tell us what page in the document you're looking to? It's 68 pages. What page number within the documents are you referencing?
There's no page numbers on this document. That's what I was telling the court. We don't have any page numbers.
Well,
Wait a minute, Kathy says she may be able to help. What can you do, Kathy?
if she was able to share screen, Miss Phoenix, she'd be able to tell us in the PDF what's the page number.
Okay,
Okay.
can you share screen?
Yeah, no problem. I
Or
just
yeah,
wanted-
that would be much easier if you could share.
Okay,
screen.
I'm sorry. I didn't think about that, but we've got it on the share thing. It's hard for me too, looking through this document, trying to figure out where I'm at. Did you get the first pages yet, Mr. Zan, or you want to start over?
I'm trying to figure out where y'all are. That's
Okay, we'll start from this beginning. It's just a few pages.
I don't need you to start. If you'll just tell me where you're at right now, then I'll
Where
catch
we're at
up.
right now, okay. I'll tell you where we were before, where the change was during the injunctions. Kathy, I'm going where Mary Molina was added and Gary was removed. On 5/14/21. Right here, 5/14/21. Page 49. And if you look right up where it says primary beneficiary, Mary Molina is now the primary beneficiary of 100%. And it looks like Gary Hodges right down at the bottom was dropped. 5/14/21. Do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And let's move on to the next page. Looks like it, where looks like Meredith. Somebody.
Okay.
Mr.
So-
Hodges, who was taken off and who was put on?
Okay. Meredith Lyles, the lady from Wolfgang Bakery, was added and Mary Molina was removed.
Let's see where the removal is. I don't see where Mary was removed. Who was made the primary beneficiary?
Meredith, or World, which is a lady owns Wolfgang Bakery.
Okay, and it was done when?
It looks like June the 9th, 2021.
Go on to the next page, Kathy. There it is. That's the signature. So that was done during the time that the injunctions were in place, not to make any changes. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, Judge, let me look at my notes. I think I'm gonna be ready to. Mr. Hodges, with regard to your spending patterns, that Mrs. Hodges claimed it went way up, did they change your spending? Did it change after you left, you and Mrs. Hodges split up?
No, I still was doing some of the same things I was doing during the marriage. Buying food at HEB or Costco, or buying meals for people, or cash withdrawals. Nothing changed.
Nothing changed from the time you all separated. Between the time you were together and the time you separated, you didn't change your spending habits.
No.
Okay, thank you. Pass the witness, Judge.
Judge, can I
Okay,
have
why
2
don't-
minutes to use the restroom real briefly?
Well,
and then
I'm
come
going to
back?
give you a little bit more than that. Normally we do a 15-minute break, but since we got a late start, we're going to just do 10. So we're going to resume at 3:28. We're going off the record.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. I don't see where there's stop video. There's
All right, the court's back on the record. The respondent was just passed by Ms. Phoenix. Mr. Zan, it's your witness.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Hodges.
Good afternoon, Mr. Zan.
I'm going to follow up where we just left off about your spending habits. And I want to show you what's been previously marked and admitted into evidence as petitioner's exhibit number 21. If you don't mind, I'll share my screen to assist
okay.
you in being able to locate the document or see it. Judge, do I have permission to share screen?
You do.
Thank you, Your Honor. And let me minimize the size. And Mr. Hodges, are you able to see this document, sir?
Look, yes, best of my
Okay.
ability. I wear glasses. It's just hard on the computer screen, but okay. Yes, Mr. Zan.
Do you need to wear your glasses in order to see it?
Well, I
sir?
mean, they're reading glasses.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes, okay. I just want to make sure you can see it. So, sir, this was a letter that I sent to your attorney back on May 21st of 2020 regarding concerns related to your spending habits. Are you aware of this letter, sir?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
All right. And so at this point in time, you're aware that there were injunctions in place which prohibited unnecessary and frivolous expenditures. Are you aware of that, sir?
I'm aware of that, Mr. Zan, but what do you mean?
You're aware that there were injunctions in place, correct?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Hodges, looking at this document, can you tell the court if pulling out cash withdrawals at ATMs in the amount of $1,200, $200, $1,000, $102, $102, $1,500, $1,700, $1,500 in a matter of a few months is normal spending, sir?
Mr. Zan, yes.
That's normal spending.
Yes, Mr. Zan.
Okay. And so all these ATM withdrawals that you've pulled out, you recall I asked you about all these at our deposition. You recall that, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
And you recall your response to every ATM withdrawal was you don't recall what they were for. You recall that?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
And if I were to ask you the same question today about every ATM withdrawal in all of your Chase bank account statements ending in 3027, would your statement still be the same that you don't recall what the ATM withdrawals are for?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
All right. And so withdrawals from January through March at ATMs in the amount of $8,000, you're telling this court that that's normal expenses, normal everyday
Objection.
activity.
Asked and answered, Judge.
Same.
Objection.
Withdrawing over $8,000 from January to March, sir, can you tell the court what you use those funds for?
Mr. Zan, my earlier testimony, I used that to pay my rent. I used that to pay bills, so I was concealing my address so Mr. Hodges would know and find where I lived at, Mr. Zan.
So your testimony is you pulled out over $8,000 in ATM withdrawals so that you could pay your rent?
Mr. Zan, the
Is
rent.
that your testimony, sir?
May I correct it, Mr. Zan?
I'm just asking yes or no, Mr. Hodges.
Objection, Judge. Argumentative.
Overruled. You may answer that, sir. He's asking, did you pull $8,000 out over that time period to pay your rent?
I pulled out to pay my rent and other bills, Mr. Zan.
So in your Chase checking account ending in 3027, you have other payments coming out of that account to pay necessary expenditures. Is that your testimony as well, sir?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
Okay. Would you consider dating app Zoosk an elite singles a necessary expenditure, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
It's necessary, is it?
Objection, Judge. Argumentative, sidebar.
Well, it was asked and answered. So he said he thinks it's a legitimate expense. So overruled.
And I want to go back to the rent statement, Mr. Hodges, that you said. I'll stop sharing, Judge. Well, let me go down further, actually, Mr. Hodges. And you see that from these other accounts, and these are only from January through March, sir, you've got additional ATM withdrawals. And can you tell the court an ATM withdrawal on March 10th, 2020 in the amount of $5,000? That's normal for you to withdraw $5,000 from an ATM, sir?
Yes, Ms. Suzanne.
And what did you do with the money, sir?
I don't recall, Ms. Suzanne, this time.
Mr. Hodges, you recall early on, and this was, I believe, last week, sir, you testified that on February 11th of 2020, Ms. Hodges, and I'm not going to repeat what you alleged she said, but she called you or said that something you believe inappropriate and very demeaning to yourself. Do you recall? Something,
Yes,
something having to do with the lower extremity. Do you recall that, sir?
Yes, Ms. Suzanne.
And that's what you couldn't accept it. And that's when you decided that you were going to leave. Is that right?
If not the way you put it, Ms. Suzanne.
Okay. So on February 11th, is that when you decided to leave the marital residence due to the statement provided by Ms. Hodges to you through your testimony, sir?
I decided resident when Ms. Hodges would not take my calls and respond anymore, and I couldn't find my stuff. I couldn't find this black safe that we've been fussing about, and I realized that she had locked my stuff up in the attic.
And when did that take place, sir?
The morning of the 11th.
Okay.
The same time she called me a limp dick motherfucker.
Okay. And you had no other intent and then no desire to leave other than because of that strife that you testified to. Is that right?
Ms. Suzanne, I'm concerned. I've been concerned she was going to kick me out because she's kicked me out before and called Fort Bend County Sheriff and put me out. I was concerned, yes.
Okay.
Because she was very argumentative and she just had the accident in the truck on the 6th, and we were really angry with each other.
And so would it surprise everyone to know that on February 8th, you decided to rent an apartment before this alleged altercation took place? Would that surprise you, sir?
Yes, Ms. Suzanne.
Okay. Judge, I'm going to offer what's been previously marked as respondents or petitioner's rebuttal, which would be number 45, I believe, Judge. We had it marked as number 2, but it's, if we're going in order, we've got 44, 45. 44 has not been offered or admitted.
Okay, so you want to make this P45?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Phoenix, if you had a chance to look at petitioner's 45, which may be also labeled petitioner's rebuttal number 2.
It's their document they provided us in discovery, Judge. It's in the 4th sup that I believe has already been admitted into evidence on their end. However, I've just taken this one document from that supplement.
Is there a base stamp number, Mr. Zan?
Yes, ma'am. It's Bates stamped 4th sup RFP 010968.
010968, Kathy.
It's Ms. Hodges, Ms. Phoenix, it's a check from your client. That's what it is.
Yes. Just one moment. I'm just going to look it up and make sure we provide that. Is this here?
10968.
10968, Mr. Zan.
010968.
10968. That's it? It's there? This is from you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hold on, hold on.
Judge, I think they've acknowledged this is from their client. It's a document that they produced in discovery. It's his check. I don't know what we're waiting on, Judge.
We're just looking to make sure we provide it.
Yes,
Yes, it's, no objection, Judge.
All right, P45 is admitted.
Thank you. Mr. Hodges, are you able to see that document, sir?
Yes, Mr. Zan, I can see the document.
And that's a check issued by you on February 8th to Lafayette West, Unit 206, which is an apartment complex. Isn't that right?
That's what it says, Mr. Zan.
Yep. And so that was 3 days prior to this alleged altercation, this verbal altercation between you and your wife, in which you left the residence because she wouldn't take your call. Isn't that what you testified to just a moment ago, right?
May I speak or you want?
Just a yes or no, Mr. Hodges.
Yes, Mr. Zan.
And so your testimony today is that you left the residence on the 11th, and that's because of what Ms. Hodges did. But the truth is, sir, you already had plans to leave because you've already provided a check to an apartment complex 3 days prior to this incident in which you paid for an apartment unit number 206. Isn't that right, Mr. Hodges?
No, Mr. Zan.
And Mr. Hodges, going through a majority of your reimbursement claims that we've spent now several days on, sir, it appears that you're asking for reimbursement as it relates to any expense that Ms. Hodges made for any dog, specifically including Justice. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
And it's your prior testimony, sir, that you purchased Justice for your wife. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you purchase a dog, sir, you're aware that that dog is going to have expenses related to it. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you recall me asking you a question at our deposition when it comes to expenditures made by your wife, that your response to me, sir, was that you did not care what your wife spent money on. You recall that testimony?
Not sure you asked me at that time.
Okay. I'm going to share screen and show you what was previously marked as your deposition, which is petitioner's exhibit number 39. And I'm going to reference exactly page 121 of that document. And I'm going to use this to refresh your memory, Mr. Hodges. I believe it's page 121, if I'm right. Actually, I think it's 135. I'm sorry. Do you see page 135, Mr.? I'll share my screen. I'm sorry. This is page 135 of your deposition. There's 170 pages total. This is 135 of 170. And Mr. Hodges, I asked you a question. I said, so if Ms. Hodges was out withdrawing tens of thousands of dollars worth of cash, would you question her behavior? You recall your answer, sir, being, I never questioned Ms. Hodges' expenditures, never?
Correct.
And my next question was, I'm asking now, would you be concerned? Your testimony was no. The next question, you would think that that's normal? Your answer, I think I never told Ms. Hodges. I never told Ms. Hodges what to do with her money. I never have, and she never told, I'm living the same. You see now, that's what I did with her, so nothing changed. You recall that testimony, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Zan.
And it's your testimony throughout this proceeding, sir, that you gave Ms. Hodges, or you deposited, excuse me, sir, several thousands of dollars into joint Wells Fargo checking account. Is that right?
Can how you said it's not correct, Mrs. Ann.
So did you provide funds to Ms. Hodges to deposit in the Wells Fargo joint checking account, sir?
Yes, Mrs. Ann, I did.
Okay. And it's your testimony that a majority of those funds you're asking for reimbursement for. Is that right?
Yes, Mrs. Ann.
And a majority of those reimbursement claims you're asking for are related to expenses for dogs, including Justice. Is that correct?
Yes, Mrs. Ann.
But isn't it true that you and your wife both agreed and entered into an act of fostering dogs?
Mrs. Ann, I didn't have a choice. It was her house.
So you never went to any foster, any animal shelters, developed relationships with these individuals, or brought home any foster animals on your own?
Mrs. Ann, to keep the peace of my marriage, that was something that worked. Yes, I did. To keep
Thank
the
you,
peace of
sir.
my marriage.
But your testimony throughout this proceeding is that you want to be reimbursed for those expenses related to those foster animals that you consented to and agreed to foster.
Yes, Mrs. Ann, I didn't have a choice. It's her house, her home. It's her, remember, her property. So I went
So, Mr.
along,
Hodges,
I insisted.
if you were aware that expenses were being incurred for foster animals,
Judge,
But you-
objection, and there's no really time frame that Mr. Zan is giving. I'm not sure what he's talking about.
I think because we limited the testimony to the time period from the date of filing forward, that he's referring to that time period. So, is that correct, Mr. Zan?
yes, Your Honor.
Okay, overruled.
So you testified that you basically you consented because you say you had no choice, but your argument is that you should be reimbursed for expenses related to these foster dogs that were incurred by the community estate. Is that what you're asking this court today, sir?
Mr. Zan, we stopped fostering at the end of Ike. All the money I've asked for is going forward. 2017 with Ike. And Harvey.
To clarify now, you're just asking for reimbursements from 2017 onward because your prior testimony, sir, went back to 2013.
If that's what it says, sir, you're correct.
So 2017 onward, is that what you're saying, Mr.
Well,
Hodges?
you know
Just to
what? I'm saying we
clarify.
didn't foster dogs after 2017. At the end of Harvey, we got rid of all the dogs. There was no house, and after 2017, there was no dogs in the house, Mr.
Okay. So after 2017, no dogs in the house, but I'm trying to clarify what it is you're asking of this court. So prior to 2017, during the marriage, when you and your wife fostered animals, are you still asking this court to reimburse you for every penny that was expended by Ms. Hodges on any animal that you fostered in that marital residence?
Yes, because it's her house. She didn't give me a choice.
If she didn't give you a choice, Mr. Hodges, why would you continue to provide her money to expend on expenses you did not agree to expend them on?
Because I love Miss Hodges.
Yet in your deposition, and we just went through that, you testified you didn't care what Ms. Hodges spent money on.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
I said yes, sir.
So do you agree that those are conflicting opinions and statements, Mr. Hodges?
No, Mrs. Zan, I do not, in my opinion.
And you were aware that Justice, the dog that you purchased from Ms. Hodges, which you've already stipulated is her separate property because it was a gift. Is that right, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
You were aware that Justice suffered from cancer. Is that something you're aware of, sir?
Yes, Mr. Zan, I provided you money. I provided your office over $3,000 to help pay for some of her treatments back in February, March.
And those expenses were incurred after this divorce was filed. Is that right, Mr. Hodges?
I don't know, Mr. Zan.
When did you provide my office the payments to be directed to Ms. Hodges for the cancer treatment for Justice?
Sometime in either February or March at your request, that we agreed to.
It was after this divorce was filed then. Is that correct, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, sir.
And you agreed to provide those funds to Ms. Hodges for the treatment of justice. Isn't that correct?
Yes, I did.
Yet today you're asking.
And hoping that Ms. Hodges let me see justice, but she has refused to let me see justice.
Okay. So now that Ms. Hodges has refused to allow you to see justice, you want reimbursement for all these monies. Is that right?
I guess you'd be correct, Mr. Zan.
So if
But
Ms. Hodges, let's go down this avenue, Mr. Hodges. So if Ms. Hodges had let you see justice, you wouldn't be asking for any money. Isn't that correct?
I don't know, Mr. Zan. Not sure.
You never objected or had any issue to the treatment of justice when she was going through cancer treatment, did you?
Miss Lynn Hodges controlled herself personally. That's her thing. And you was not going to be able to tell her anything. She was going to make the decision, and you had to shut up. I made a mistake once and didn't take justice to the clinic on a Saturday because she had some type of sickness, and she never let me live it down. So I always shut up after that because it was a problem.
In fact, Mr. Hodges, you would actually transport justice to and from the clinic on numerous occasions, correct?
Yes, and to keep the peace in our family. You would do that too, Mr. Zan. If your wife said do that, you know, you're gonna keep the peace. Don't fight over the kids. Justice is like a child in the family.
And so the expenses that were incurred for justice were expenses that you consented to, that you never objected to, right?
I never objected to them, but I know what they were. I just went along, Mr. Zan.
Okay. So all this money and these expenses coming out of your joint account, Mr. Hodges, you would agree that that is a joint account with your name on that account, correct?
I saw it as a joint account, but I didn't know I was on that joint account, Mr. Zan, because she never let me know it until I saw the paperwork she provided. I've never used that account. I tried to put money in once, but I didn't know my name was on the account so I saw it myself. So I never had use of it, Mr. Zan. Never used it.
Mr. Hodges, you're an intelligent man, and you would agree with me, sir, that in order to open up a joint account, you have to go into a bank. They've got to collect your personal identification. It's not something that Ms. Hodges could just go open up on her own. You would agree with me, correct?
No, she added me to that account. She added me to I just have an account where American Express. She added me to. So I did not go to Wells Fargo with her separate account. That's not true.
Well, there's a difference between adding someone as an authorized user on a credit card and opening a joint account. You would agree, right?
Yes, so, Mr. Zan, but I did not know about that account until I saw the statements, Mr. Zan.
So it's your testimony, just so I'm clear, that you didn't know that you were on this joint account and you never opened up this joint account.
Correct,
Ms.
Mr. Zan.
Hodges.
Correct, Mr. Zan.
I'm going to go through Mr. Hodges with you, and I'm going to try to go through this as quick as possible with you. But I'm going to ask, and I'll share my screen so that we can do this efficiently. But I'm going to open up what's been previously marked so Ms. Phoenix and Ms. Hodges are aware. It's petitioner's exhibit number 5, which is your bank account, is your AAA Justice Chase bank account ending in 9908.
Oh, it's responding.
Are you there, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, Mr. Zan.
And I'm going to share my screen because I've highlighted the transactions that I want the court to be aware of. So this is card purchase on February 4th, just before you left, to Lauren's Fragrances in the amount of $151.55, Mr. Hodges. What's Lauren's Fragrances, sir?
Probably a perfume place. I buy colognes all the time. I've always bought colognes.
So this would be your testimony is you bought a cologne for yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Then on February 5th, 3 days before you wrote that check for the apartment and 6 days before you left the residence, you withdrew $1,500 from Washington Avenue in Houston. What'd you withdraw the $1,500 for?
I don't recall, Ms. Zan.
Okay. And then on February 11th, the same day you left the residence, you went to Ann's Fines Gifts and spent $115.23. What'd you buy at Ann's Fines Gifts, Mr. Hodges?
The normal things I bought at Ann's Fine Jewelry, I bought these. I have what, I don't know if you know what it is, called Lamp J. They were going out of business. I bought oils, and then I bought a clock. And now, because I had to think about it. When you asked me, I didn't know then, but I bought a clock, a wall clock, and they were going out of business. And I bought fragrances because that's where me and Miss Hodges went and bought fragrance for our Lamp J. It's a type of scented thing, makes the house smell really good. Cookies, different fragrances. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then on that same week, you went to Walmart and with a matter of, it appears, 7 days, spent almost $600 at Walmart. You call what you bought at Walmart, sir?
Pots, pans, bedding, stuff for to live.
Okay. And that was so that you could move into the apartment that you paid for on February 8th. Is that right?
Let me try to follow you this one. Okay, I might have missed something you said. That you're going a little bit quick for me, so I gotta be just. Well, some of the stuff is I might have bought before I left, Mrs. Ann. And sometimes that's when the charge comes out. So I don't want to say anything correct because I might have bought it before. I could have bought it on that Saturday. I had just bought food for the house. So I don't recall. So I don't want, because it's when the bank gets it. Like, so if I buy something from Amazon, it may not show up on my card for 2 or 3 days. So I don't want to tell you anything wrong. So now I'm looking at.
Well, it's going to show right here, Mr. Hodges, your PIN was entered on February 11th.
Okay, but I'm saying, but okay, go ahead. Okay. So what's your question, Mrs. Ann? I can ask you the best.
I asked you, what did you purchase at Walmart in that week's period of time?
On the 11th, I bought house stuff for the house. The apartment I was in trying to hey.
And on Valentine's Day, Mr. Hodges, 2/14, who'd you send edible arrangements to?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it might have been a client. Because edible arrangements is something that a lot of office people like, like the fruit and stuff. But okay, go ahead.
And so you normally send that on Valentine's Day?
I don't pay attention to the date. I might have sent before that. That's what I'm saying. It might not have been the 14th. On the 14th, I was
sir, I'm going to highlight what's the date right next to the arrangement, which says February 14th. It hit your account on the 18th, but the purchase was made on the 14th. You see that?
Yes, sir. But I during that time, romance was not my issue. But
okay. Well, your prior testimony was that dating sites were a necessity. So I would assume that if you have dating sites, you're going to be dating. So you would disagree with that?
Yes, Mrs. Ann.
Okay. Well, I want to understand why you believe online dating sites are a necessity while you're going through a divorce. Can you explain that to the court?
Mrs. Ann, the easiest answer for you. Miss Hodges called me, Miss Hodges knew I had a problem with my, where I couldn't do anything. And she really hurt me when what she said on the 11th. So I just sort of looked at sites. I found sites to look and see. Maybe somebody will want you, but when, she touched on something right now, it's still not been resolved. And so, it just affected me mentally. So, and what's funny is I knew she was going to be on the website because she immediately, reached out to somebody and said that I was on dating sites. So that was more just, I was pissed off at her, but I don't care about these dates. I ain't got time. Like I said, I do have a erectile dysfunction. So nobody's not, and she said she didn't want to, she's not the only one that doesn't want nobody. So it was also, it's just see what's going on out there. That's all. But
and you think that's an expense that the community should be responsible for, is that right?
It's no different than expenses she chose to pick for her own self. We was locked down for a few days. So I started looking at sites and looking at people.
And can you tell the court, I'm going to share a screen. I moved on to petitioner's exhibit number 6. It's the next in line. And I've highlighted transactions once again, and I'll share my screen. On February 28th, you went to Red Ash Grill in Austin. And then on March 1st, stayed at the Hilton Garden Inn.
Yes.
Who did you go to the Red Ash Grill with in Austin, sir?
That's why I had a conference for process serving, right? And some of the processors went down, we had food and beverages. So I stayed at Hilton because I was there for training. Not, well, you know, in order to be a process server, you got to C's, and that's where they had the training. So I went and got either some training there, but that's why, and as long as I've looked now, because that's where, so we ate downtown, so.
And you paid for other individuals' dinner, correct, in the amount of $155.83, is that right?
It was part of my tab. It's like a whole group of, we all paid together. That was my part. Yes, sir.
So your portion alone was $155?
I'm just saying, but there was a group of people, so, yeah.
Okay. And then getting on socialcatfish.com on March 2nd, that's also a necessary expense, right?
Mrs. Ann, I was just seeing what the hell was going on out there, Mrs. Ann.
Okay. But you believe that to be a necessary expense?
Yes, Mrs. Ann, or else I wouldn't have made it.
Okay. And then an ATM withdrawal in the amount of $1,200 on March 3rd in Washington. Once again, you know what you spent that money on?
I'm going to speculate, probably paid the rent with it, because that was really due.
But when I asked you about your payment of the rent, sir, you at your deposition, you testified you wrote checks.
Well, I didn't start writing checks till later, and that was to the apartment. The current address, I started writing checks and when I was staying at that place, the place where I went, I paid cash, and then when I moved to the Cortland address, I wrote checks. So
Okay.
you asked me a question. They had two different answers, but yes, sir.
All right. So $1,200, if that was used to pay your rent, how would $1,200 pay a $1,700 rent?
I didn't live there at that time.
Well,
So
you just paid on February 8th, you just paid $1,700 to
And then-
Lafayette.
Yes,
So you would agree that your monthly rent is $1,700, not $1,200, correct?
that was February. This is the Lafayette is a furnished, like a Motel 6, a little bit better, and you can pay week or monthly, and then you can move out anytime, no lease. So in March, I found me a place that, that was suitable.
And what was that place, sir?
Kingsland, Cortland, it's another apartment, that's why in March, you see what I started buying furniture, started putting stuff in their place. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then $173.85 at elitesingles.com is another necessary expense, correct, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then on top of those, that $1,200 ATM withdrawal, a day later, you have a $100 ATM withdrawal. And then it looks like 6 days later, or actually on the 7th and 8th, you withdrew another $201,000. So another $1,200.
Okay.
You know what you spent that on, sir?
No, I don't at this time, sir. I don't recall.
Okay. And then on March 19th, sir, you went to Carroll's Gun Shop in Wharton. Can you tell the court what you bought at Carroll's Gun Shop? Because you don't have any guns or firearms listed in your inventory.
You asked me and I told you about ammo.
Well, I'm asking you today so the judge can hear you, sir. What did you buy at Carroll's Gun Shop?
Ammo
For what gun?
for my, I have a 38, I bought ammo and a 9mm.
And did you include those in your inventory and appraisement, sir?
I don't recall, Mrs. Ann.
Well, if I were to pull up your inventory and appraisement, would that help refresh your memory?
If Mrs. Ann, I'm agreeing with you. You already said, I told you I don't recall it. I couldn't, but if you say it's there, I'm not going to accept your answer, Mrs. Ann.
Well,
So
I'm asking you,
I accept your answer, Mr. Ann.
Mr. Hodges, I didn't prepare your inventory and appraisement, so I'm asking you because you're the one that prepared it and swore to it.
Mrs. Ann, I accept your answer. Yes, sir. I have it may not be there. It was a 9mm a pistol and a 38.
Okay, and when did you acquire those firearms, sir?
Previous to the marriage, and the 9mm I've had for a long time, and the 38 was a gun that my mother threatened the home health care people in Short North Carolina. I had to go pick up. So I picked it up. So I can't remember when it happened, but my mother died in 2015. It could have been before the marriage, but my mother threatened to kill the home health care people at 38. So I immediately got on a plane and went and picked up that 38. But it was, and that's why I always kept it.
And then a purchase of Zeus.com in the amount of $63.91. That's a necessary expense for another dating site, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you have several purchases at Best Buy and then another cash withdrawal at an ATM in 202. Do you know what you purchased at Best Buy or what you used the cash for?
I buy paper Best Buy, I buy office equipment Best Buy. I couldn't tell you how much was it. Because Best Buy has a lot of products. I might buy ink cartridges. I don't know. I don't
It's
recall.
two transactions, Mr. Hodges. Why would there be two transactions?
Went back in the store, realized I got all the things I needed.
Okay.
Maybe I might have bought paper and went back. Oh shucks, I need something else.
All right, let's stop share. Then I'm moving on to Petitioner's Exhibit 7. Going down. Share my screen again, Mr. Hodges, to help you. And this is for the bank statements from April 2020 to April 1st, 2020 to April 30th. And there's several charges for Enterprise Rent-A-Car in Katy, Texas. Why did you rent a car, sir?
I don't recall at this time.
Okay. And then you've got purchases, sir, on April 20th to Silver_US. Are you buying gold and silver, Mr. Hodges?
No, I'm not, Mrs. Ann, but I can answer that question on why I didn't know before.
What is the purchase for Silver_US in the amount of $119.85 for?
It's a dating site.
So Silver_US is a dating site.
Yes, Mrs. Ann.
All right. And that's you believe to be a necessary expenditure.
Yes, Mrs. Ann.
All right. And then on the next day, February or April 21st, you charged $137.19 at Total Wine and More. Is it normal for you to expend over $100 at Total Wine?
Yes, Mrs. Ann.
All right. And who'd you buy flowers for on February or on April 23rd in the amount of $30.20, Mr. Hodges?
I don't recall, Mrs. Ann.
And then on April 30th, sir, you got two ATM withdrawals of $2,000. What'd you spend that money on?
It was, not for sure right now. I saw that myself. I don't know, Mrs. Ann. I don't recall.
Well, I mean, I appreciate your honesty, Mr. Hodges. I'm going to move on to Petitioner's Exhibit number 8, which is your same checking account with Chase ending in 9908 from May 1st. And I'll share my screen once again.
Judge, I thought we weren't gonna go through these statements again.
Well, Judge, these are from the date of filing onward, and I'm trying to get verification and clarification of what some of these concerning expenditures are.
We spent a lot of time on wife's charges, and I'm going to allow a little leeway for Mr. Zan to go through his charges. So the objection's overruled. You may continue, Mr. Zan.
And then Mr. Hodges, on May 1st, it looks like the transaction took place, but it didn't hit your account till May 4th, ourtime.com. It's another dating site, isn't it correct?
I believe so, Mrs. Ann.
And that's
Okay.
another necessary expenditure, correct?
Yes, Mrs. Ann.
Judge, can we
And-
stipulate that the dating sites are necessary expenses?
No, I don't think they're going to stipulate to that, but I understand that's his testimony on each dating site.
And then it looks like May 6th, Mr. Hodges, another $1,000 ATM withdrawal. You know what that was for, sir?
No, Mrs. Ann. I don't recall.
And then on May 8th, Pepper Lou Gifts. You know who you bought a gift for?
I bought something for the. I'm trying to remember. I knew who Pepper Lou Gift is because that was about the time that I bought fragrances for my apartment. Made my apartment smell better. And that's what they're, that place I used to go to is closed. They closed out. So I bought more fragrance over there. Like a little, it makes your house smell flowery and it don't smell like a man. I mean, like a guy, like a gym. Oh, go ahead. But I know Pearl Gifts is in that same parking lot with that other place that me and Lynn used to buy Lamborghini stuff at. Yes, sir.
Okay, and then Paris Perfumes and Watch on May 12th, $184.01. Is that, what'd you buy there?
So no, I wear colognes. I bought colognes. And I've always bought colognes, Mr. Zan.
Yeah, you didn't buy perfume from a girlfriend?
Is that a no?
No, you're not, Judge. I thought you was making fun. Okay, no, you're not.
No, it was a question, Mr. Hodges.
I apologize.
And then another 18 withdrawal, 200 on May 20th. Would it be safe to say, sir, you don't recall what the 18 withdrawals are for?
No, that's to be safe, sir. Yes, sir.
And so now that we've ironed out what silver_US is, that's another expense for a dating site on May 26th. Is that right, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, sir.
And so every expense for silver_US, sir, you're testifying today that that is a dating site.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So going through these bank records, Mr. Hodges, there's quite a bit of money going out for dating sites. You would agree with me, right?
If you say so, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
I'm asking you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And it's your testimony that it was only for looking. Did you go on dates?
No, Mr. Zan.
So never took out any women to dinner or expended any money on any other women during this period of time while the divorce was pending?
No, Mr. Zan.
Stop my share. And Mr. Hodges, your attorney provided evidence that you submitted copies of checks from the date of the divorce being filed up until July 31st of 2020. And that was an exhibit that your attorney offered today as a rebuttal exhibit. You recall that exhibit?
Yes, Mr. Zan. Yes.
The truth of the matter, though, is, sir, from July 31st of 2020 up until today, no additional copies of checks were provided to me or Ms. Hodges. Isn't that right, Mr. Hodges?
No. How you asked the question, Mr. Zan, no, because Ms. Lynn Hodges was not providing a document, and we argued that point. She was not providing the same type of document. She was just asking for stuff, this and that. And she was not providing the same documents, like copies of the back of a check. She didn't provide copies.
Mr. Hodges, my question is, sir, strike that. You're aware that we had formal requests for production and inspection submitted to your counsel, and you were required to answer those discovery requests. You're aware of that, right?
Yes, and my counsel submitted a rebuttal to you.
And we've had 4 motions to compel discovery in this case. You're aware of that too, Mr. Hodges, right?
Yes, and I thought the last motion to compel was sustained. I don't know how to say it, but the judge stopped because we was asking for stuff, and we also compelled Ms. Hodges to provide stuff. And he just I thought the judge put a stop to it. Because
Mr. Hodges, from July 31st, 2020 up until now, you have not provided through your attorney, so your attorney can provide to me any copies of checks from your account ending in 9908, have you?
I provided up to July this year, Mr. Zan, as I recall. And then we had a motion to compel Ms. Hodges, and she refused. And that's when the current judge here got involved, and it stopped. So as far as that, that's all I know, Mr. Zan.
Mr. Hodges, you provided July 2020 checks up until July 2021?
I believe so, Mr. Zan, because, or maybe it might be June, because that's what the last request, and then you just asked for y'all just made another request now, but I'm not for sure, but no, I'm not for sure, Mr. Zan. So I don't want to speak incorrectly. But Ms. Hodges was compelled, and she's not providing stuff. And every time I provide stuff, she'd ask for more stuff, but she's not giving it herself.
Okay.
That's my argument.
You would recall, Mr. Hodges, that Ms. Hodges did not produce a phone bill, and we produced that through discovery. My question to you, sir, is your testimony, so we're clear, you have not produced copies of checks through discovery Because I've looked and I haven't seen any from July 31st, 2020 up until today's date, have you?
Incorrect, sir.
Can you point to me where you have produced those documents in your discovery responses, sir? I would like you to tell me what Bates number those checks that you allege you produced to my office are on.
Not at this time, Mrs. Ann.
In addition to that, Mr. Hodges, you failed to wholly produce any of your checking account statements or credit card statements from July of 2021 up until now. Isn't that correct?
Incorrect, Mrs. Ann.
So you produced all of your checking account statements from July of 2021 up until 30 days prior to this trial. Is that right?
I'm saying from up to July of this year, Mrs. Ann. I'm not going beyond July now, but
That's what I'm asking you. After July of 2021, July 9th, to be specific, Mr. Hodges, July 9th, 2021, have you produced any of your checking
I believe
account
I have,
statements?
Mrs. Ann. Yes.
Mr. Hodges, I'm going to refer you to what's been previously marked as petitioner's exhibit. Let me go back to it. Petitioner's exhibit number, make sure I've got the right one. It is petitioner's exhibit number 11. And I'm going to share my screen with you, Mr. Hodges. Mr. Hodges, you see this is a Bates stamp number 7th Sup 12163. And this is for your AAA Justice account ending 9908 from July
Yes.
1st, 2021 to July 30th, 2021.
Okay, that's this year. Yes, sir.
Yep. So have you produced any additional statements after this last statement?
No, Mrs. Ann, I explained that. No.
We have no copies of checks for any of these statements either, do we? As you previously testified, you said because of COVID, you couldn't get them.
Mrs. Ann, you're mixing what I said, but I believe I met the request, but I think you, after I provided information on the 20th of July, then you asked for a copy of the check, and that's when we was following a motion to get Ms. Hodges to provide information. But the copies of checks, I provided lots and lots of stuff. I've complied many times for you, Mrs. Ann, because no matter what happens, I know you had me pay over $7,000 to you because you said I didn't comply. I've done it, so I didn't want to again.
This time, Judge.
Abstain.
Mr. Hodges, I just want to be extremely clear with you, and I'm going to ask my question as straightforward as I possibly can. The last check your attorney provided to this court and myself, which is marked as your rebuttal exhibit that was presented and submitted as evidence today, shows a check issued July 31st of 2020. You recall that, right?
Okay, Mrs. Ann, yes.
And your attorney questioned you just a moment ago, a few hours ago, about why you did not produce any checks from that date forward. And your testimony was you couldn't get them because the banks were closed for COVID.
That was the earlier part of that. But I produced it after I was able to give them. I gave you, Mrs. Ann spent over $700 getting those just to get printing to give you what I had. And that's why it's up to, I think, I go back, you had a certain point, but then you asked for additional information that required checks, but you later asked for the checks, the copies of checks. I'm just trying to comply. So,
Mr. Hodges, your prior testimony and the documentation that you provided to my office reveals that you did not produce those copies of checks. And your testimony prior was that you could not get them because of COVID. The banks were closed and you couldn't provide them.
I was explaining, that's why you got me, that's why I paid the first fine, because you wanted them in March or April, and I couldn't get them. But then later on, I was able to produce all the checks, and I provided, you got copies of checks, copies. And when they went to court, I didn't go, Miss Hodges, Miss Hodges was not providing a document, but you and Miss Pinks agreed that you had it. So I don't know what you're talking about this time. I'm trying to I want to accommodate you. I want this to be over and let the judge make a ruling, but I don't understand when you're going with this, and I've answered to the best of my abilities.
Mr. Hodges, I'm going to share my screen with what your attorney offered as her exhibit number. I believe it's 60. It's her second rebuttal exhibit she submitted in today.
67 for the record.
67. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Hodges, you see that this was submitted to me on September 24th of 2020. And this was your checks, copies of checks that your attorney offered as rebuttal exhibit 66. You see this date, sir?
I see the date, Mr. Zan.
Okay. And there have been no additional copies of checks provided through discovery, which would evidence checks written by you after July 31st of 2020. Can you explain why that is, sir?
I cannot. I don't know, Mr. Zan.
And can you explain to the court why you have not produced your checking account statements for any account from July 2021 up until 30 days before trial?
I cannot, Mr. Zan.
Well, Mr. Hodges, would it be because you don't want Ms. Hodges or this court to know what you're spending money on, community funds, once again, sir?
No, Mr. Zan.
Well, by you not providing those statements or those copies of checks, Mr. Hodges, you would agree with me that this court nor Ms. Hodges can determine what you're spending money on, correct?
I don't understand, Mr. Zan. I'm trying to answer. You asked a question, I responded. And no matter what I say, I'm gonna be wrong. So, Mr. Zan, what do you want me to do?
Mr. Hodges, I'm just asking a question, sir. If we don't have your checking account statements and we don't have copies of checks, sir, we don't know what you spent money on, did we?
Mr. Zan, I didn't think it was required this time because we had a final court date and I thought the judge had said, stopped all this gathering documents. I have no problem getting documents for you because you go through it, I can go through hers, but I have no problem, understand? So I thought from my understanding was since Lynn Hodges was not required to provide documents because we had a motion compelled that was, I didn't think I had to. So that's my understanding.
Mr. Hodges, are you aware that we requested you supplement all your bank statements before this trial and you refused?
Objection, Judge. Asked and answered.
Overruled.
You can answer the question, sir.
He's asking-
I'm still going on assumption that because Ms. Hodges didn't provide her documents and it was just going to stop because I'm going on that assumption. That's all I know, Mr.
I
Zane.
understand that's your assumption, but his question was, were you aware that he requested you to supplement your bank records prior to the trial? That was his question.
No, I'm not clear on that. So that's what I'm trying to explain to you, Judge. I'm not clear. I didn't understand. I'm not a paralegal like Ms. Hodges is that knows the rules that provide him all the information. I just don't know.
So you would agree with me, Mr. Hodges, that there is no documentation that's been provided from July 31st of 2021 that would be able to be referenced as to where community funds were expended out of your AAA Justice Chase account ending in 9908.
Objection, asked and answered.
Abstain.
All right. Mr. Hodges, you recall when we were last in court last week, I believe it was, and you testified that several deposits made by Ms. Hodges were from money you provided her into the Wells Fargo joint checking account. You recall that line of testimony, sir?
Yes, Mr. Zane.
Specifically, I'm going to go to your attorney's exhibit, which was, you find the exact one. It was, I believe, respondents exhibit number 14, which is the party's joint checking account. And I'm going to go to February of 2020, and I'll share my screen.
Hold on, he's on screen share.
And I'll share screen on it. Here it is. I'm trying to go to a deposit Mr. Hodges referenced that he provided the funds for. So there's a deposit on February 10th that Mr. Hodges says, which is highlighted as y'all exhibits, and you say that was a deposit that Mr. Hodges provided money for. You recall that, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that was in an amount of $1,458.50. You recall that,
Yes.
sir?
Yes, sir.
And then in addition, there was this deposit on March 3rd, where you say you gave Ms. Hodges the amount, the $3,013.88.
I might be incorrect on that one, Mrs. Zan, because she didn't provide any checks. So I just going off what, the normal thing, because she doesn't have any extra income unless she was not telling. So I was going off that. So I'm probably correct on that March one. But before that, though, since she didn't provide copies of check like she was requiring me, I had to go because she had no additional income. She only had her salary. So any money that she put in that account, I had to assume that I gave it to her because she didn't provide copies of the check.
So we're basing all these deposits on assumptions and not factual basis, right, Mr. Hodges?
I did exactly what Ms. Hodges did. She assumed stuff, I assumed stuff. That's the nature of the beast.
But your prior testimony, sir, and I questioned the court on this to clarify, you testified that these were funds that you provided Ms. Hodges, that Ms. Hodges deposited into your joint account. You recall that, sir?
To the best of my ability, yes, because she didn't provide copies of check for me to verify. If I had copies of check, Mrs. Ann, then I would eliminate those, but she did not provide copies of those checks or those deposits, Mrs. Ann.
And Your Honor, I'm going to offer what has been previously marked now as our rebuttal exhibit number 1, but that would be exhibit number 44, Judge, if we go in order.
All right, any objection to P44, Ms. Phoenix?
Yes, Judge, these were not provided in discovery. And there are a lot more than just one deposit, and Mr. Zand has not clarified how that deposit means that the whole exhibit should come in, Judge. A lot of these are not from these are not checks from Ms. Hodges, so I would object to them coming in. And they weren't provided in discovery.
Judge, these are copies of checks from the party's joint checking account, Wells Fargo joint checking account, that Mr. Hodges has testified are deposits that he provided funds for that Ms. Hodges then subsequently deposited into their joint checking account, Judge. And I think this goes directly to the truthfulness of the witness's statement, Your Honor. It goes for impeachment purposes.
So these are check, hold on, let me make sure I understand what is being proffered. These are checks, these are their statements, and they're checks attached to the statement that show.
These are not the statements, Judge. These are the checks that are referenced in the statement showing deposits, but these are the actual checks, copies of the checks for those deposits, Judge, directly from Wells Fargo. For each one of those transactions, Judge, for example, on that account that I just referenced, which was the deposit made into the branch store on 3/3, Judge, these are the checks for that deposit.
Judge, they never.
Hold on, I know they weren't produced, but this is also potentially rebuttal evidence. What are these checks though that were taken? They're from their joint account, and these are just y'all, rather than providing the whole statement with the checks attached, you just have picked out certain checks. Is that what you've done?
No, Judge, my client went and asked Wells Fargo, can you provide us copies of the checks for the time period from the date of, these start, I believe, Judge, from, the first check is from showing, they're different dates, Judge, but they're all during the time period that this divorce is pending into this Wells Fargo joint checking. Because last testimony, Judge, was Mr. Hodges was saying these are funds coming from him. He gave Ms. Hodges a check, or and I want the court to be clear on where these funds are actually coming from, because he's asking for reimbursement for these monies.
These are different dates, Judge. They're not all, these are like, one is from February, one is from April. And they've only shown the court one statement and one deposit. And they're wanting to put in this whole exhibit with a bunch of different dates and a bunch of different deposits that have not even been authenticated, Judge.
Judge, these are her Wells Fargo exhibit is the joint checking account of the parties, which Mr. Hodges is requesting reimbursement from due to deposits that he alleges he provided funds to Ms. Hodges for.
I understand.
This exhibit, Judge, will show the source of those deposits.
I got it. I understand what it's being proffered for and what it is now. My only is I'm not sure how you're going to get this in without putting on the predicate through her. So we can, at this point, the objection is sustained because I haven't heard yet enough to get him in. So you can try to do it through him and see if you can get him in through him. But Ms. Phoenix, I know they weren't produced in discovery, but this to me is rebuttal evidence based on what he's claiming. He's made these deposits. So if these deposits show that they weren't from Mr. Hodges, they were from another source, that's something that the court feels is something that would be relevant to this case. But I'm sustaining the objection at this time because I haven't heard enough to know that these are what they purport to be. So
Judge, I would just point out, Judge, that they're only showing us one exhibit and one deposit, but they've got a bunch of deposits here from different dates that they're not even dealing with. And so to try to put this whole exhibit in with just one deposit that may not have been from Mr. Hodges, I just don't think that it's appropriate, Judge. And
if it's not highlighted and requested as from him, saying that it's a deposit from him, then the court can disregard it because it's not going to be relevant. But it doesn't mean that there's not relevant information in that exhibit. But at this point, I still haven't heard enough to authenticate it. So I'm sustaining the objection. We're going to.
Judge, I haven't been permitted to try to authenticate it through the witness.
You can try to do it through him. It's a joint account and see where it goes.
Can I show the witness the exhibit, Judge, or does he have the ability to see it so that he can tell the court what it is?
You may show him the exhibit.
Mr. Hodges, your attorney provided a Wells Fargo checking account ending in account number 3320. Do you recall that, sir?
No, Mr. Zan, I don't.
Okay. Can I share screen, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Hodges, I'm going to show you what your attorney has offered and what you previously testified to as Exhibit R14. And that's a joint Wells Fargo account, sir. And correct me if I'm wrong, but does that account end in 3320?
It does, Mr. Zan, but I testified earlier, I had no knowledge of that account. And I've already said to this account, she controlled it. She had access to it. I had no ability to check that account. I couldn't go into that branch and ask to see that account because I didn't know. So I'm not authenticating this account because I didn't have access to it. And I wasn't aware my name was on that account, Mr. Zan.
But Mr. Hodges, it's your testimony that you gave your wife these funds knowing that she was depositing them into this account. But now it's your testimony, sir, that you're not even aware this account even existed.
That's not correct, Mr. Zan. What I'm saying is, I know she had a Wells Fargo account because I didn't know I was on the account. I know where she was putting the money. She put the money in that Wells Fargo account to pay the bills. I get that. I'm just saying I didn't know I was a signee on that account, as you elegantly have said so many times.
But as your attorney testified, you had testified when your attorney was questioning you, Mr. Hodges, that if you weren't aware of this account, how are you aware that these transactions, these deposits, specifically this one on March 3rd, were funds provided by you to Ms. Hodges that she deposited in this account? How can you tell the court that you know that that's what that is, sir?
I said earlier, Mr. Zan, I'm not for sure on March 3rd because she didn't provide the checks. Now she's providing the checks, but prior to that, her only income was what the money I gave her outside. So she had a job for the city of Houston that she got a check in. The other checks I gave her from my business account, I handed to them. And those amounts from my best of my ability was the money I gave her, $1,200 here, $4,000 here. I had to go off of Mrs. Ann. That's
All
my
right, so Mr. Hodges, your testimony now, sir, is we went through, you spent almost a half day on these checking accounts with your attorney, going through them line by line on deposits and expenses that you're seeking reimbursement for. So is it your testimony today, Mr. Hodges, that you don't know for certain whether these monies are monies you provided to Ms. Hodges or not, sir?
I provided Ms. Hodges money for sure. I just, on March 3rd, I didn't have the checks, but I'm testifying today, Mrs. Ann, she had no other income that I knew of. I provide her checks from my business to help pay the bills in the home that she put in her account. That's my testimony. And I can see what I saw what you saw, but that's all I know, Mrs. Ann. That's all I can tell you.
So without certainty, sir, you cannot tell this court that each one of these deposits that your attorney and you went through that's highlighted in blue is money you provided to Ms. Hodges.
I'm saying I'm certain I gave Ms. Hodges that money because she's not gonna let my black ass live in that house without paying bills. No, I'm saying I'm certain. Ms. Hodges is a strong woman. Remember, she's a pro officer. She doesn't play that. You got to pay to stay there, Mr. Zan. So if you believe that, I don't.
Judge, at this time, I'm going to re-urge my exhibit, which is rebuttal exhibit number 44, Judge. Based on the testimony of Mr. Hodges, he has testified, Judge, that these are funds that Ms. Hodges received from him and deposited into this Wells Fargo account, Judge. I believe the document directly contradicts Mr. Hodges' testimony and is used strictly for impeachment purposes, Your Honor. And these are documents from Wells Fargo referencing funds, checks specifically deposited into this account that Mr. Hodges is saying he provided the funds for, which contradict that, Your Honor.
No, I got it. But I'm telling you at this point, because it wasn't provided in discovery, so it's not self-authenticated. And this gentleman is saying he can't authenticate them. And some of the bank statements, and in fact, the one that you're honing in on doesn't have his name on it. Some of them do, some of them don't. So I don't know if his name was removed or if it was redacted on my copy. But at this point, I'm not there. You're going to have to do that through another witness to get that in. So the objection still sustained on P44.
Judge, it appears you're right. I mean, it looks like it was redacted for some reason.
So I think, I'm not sure if he's on that account at that point or not from the exhibit that's in evidence. So I'm going to need to hear from Ms. Hodges on that.
I'll call her as a rebuttal when we get to that, Your Honor.
Well, are we gonna finish today?
Well, in all honesty, Ms. Phoenix, I don't think that I'm going to be able to finish with your client in an hour and a half. I don't think that that's realistic on a cross with these issues.
I'm just asking.
All right.
Well, let's go for another at least 10 to 15 minutes. Let's get through what we can get through.
Okay. Mr. Hodges, you testified prior today regarding an auto accident in 2015 where you received settlement funds of approximately $46,000. You recall that testimony, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Zan.
Okay. And you testified that those funds were issued to you for pain and suffering for injuries related, I guess, no, settlement for pain, injury, suffering for the rest of your life. You recall that testimony?
Yes, Mr. Zan. Yes.
However, Mr. Hodges, you would agree that there are no documents, no settlement documents that would reference those settlement proceeds were paid for pain or suffering or injury. Is that right?
No, Mr. Zan. And I provided she made me provide the documentations for the accident, and it states she has all the paperwork she had in a file. And I produced it where it broke down what the cost were, what the settlement was. And I believe that was in discovery, Mrs. Zan. I haven't looked at that, but check back in discovery. It says what was given, how it was given. I went to therapy, all that stuff for about 4 or 5 months because I did get a surgery on this left shoulder, Mrs. Zan.
All right. I'm going to show you, Mr. Hodges, which was previously marked as petitioner's exhibit number 26. Your Honor, may I share screen?
You may.
Mr. Hodges, this is the settlement statement that you provided to my office through discovery. And you'll see total gross recovery was 108,000. Attorney's fees, 36,000. Total client recovery, 72,000. And then these were expenses that were deducted from your recovery proceeds.
Okay, Mr. Dan, I see that.
Point out in this document, sir, where it says these total proceeds payable to you in the amount of $46,984 are for loss, pain and suffering, or injury, sir.
I believe it was in the, I don't see it right, but it's a lawsuit. We filed a lawsuit. It was part of the lawsuit, Mrs. Ann. And I'm not for sure if that was included, but it was part of the lawsuit. And that's what you asked for from you. That's what that you asked for to provide. But part of the lawsuit, they were sued. And the lawsuit in the petition, that's where it states what it was given for.
All right, here's your claim settlement from USAA.
But that's what you
That's
asked
the offer of
for.
76,000. Please tell me, sir, where it states that that's for pain and suffering or injury.
You're correct from what you see, but after they were sued for that, and that's why they paid that much. That's what it was sued for, and it was in the lawsuit. And I thought it was in there because you only asked for you asked for claim settlements, but you didn't ask for the lawsuit. But if you want me to get you the lawsuit, I'll see if I can find it from the attorney and provide a lawsuit. He sued him for pain, suffering. That's what he sued him for, and that's why they paid off. But most lawsuits, from my experience, I serve these legal papers. The settlements don't say what it is, how much. They just is what they paid. In the lawsuit,
Mr. Hodges, in fact, sir, no lawsuit was ever filed with the court. This was a settlement outside of court. No lawsuit was ever filed. Your attorney filed a demand letter and possibly negotiated with the settlement for the insurance company, but no lawsuit was ever filed with the district court, was it?
I'm not for sure because my attorney handled that, and he told me what to do, and I followed his instruction. That's what your client's supposed to do. So he said file a lawsuit because USA is not going to pay, and the insurance company's not going to pay unless they're sued. So I don't know, but I know.
Mr. Hodges, if a lawsuit was filed, that was a request we made in our discovery, and no lawsuit documents were ever produced. Isn't that correct?
I'm not for sure, but I'll check for you, Mr. Zan.
Well, Mr. Hodges, I can reassure you, sir, I don't have any documents. So are you aware of whether your attorney produced those documents to me or not?
Not at this time, but I recall you asked what.
I'm sorry, did you say non-responsive?
No, I just said thank you, Mr. Hodges.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing. And Mr. Hodges, you brought up an expense that you referenced in Ms. Hodges' American Express charges for Andrew Lyos, MD. You recall that testimony today, sir?
Yes.
Are you aware that during your marriage, Ms. Hodges suffered from sinus issues?
Yes.
And that in fact, you took her to the doctor who conducted an operation on her sinus, her nose specifically, to attempt to open up the airway. You recall that?
Yes.
All right. And are you aware that Dr. Lyos is the doctor that performed the operation on Ms. Hodges' nose to open up her airway, sir?
No, sir. Not aware of that at all.
I apologize, Judge. I'm just going through my notes.
Fine.
Are you aware, Mr. Hodges, that Ms. Hodges has a pet plan for the justice, which is insurance for justice?
I think so.
Okay. And you're aware that that insurance reimburses for out-of-pocket expenses related to justice?
No, I'm not.
You're not.
No, I'm not. Yes, I'm not aware. I'm saying no, I'm not aware.
Okay.
But if it does, it would make sense. But go ahead.
Well, you heard Ms. Hodges' testimony that it reimburses about 90% of the expenses incurred for justice. You recall
Okay.
that?
No, I don't recall it, but I'm saying I'm
Okay.
acknowledging what you just said. Yes, but I don't recall.
And so several of the deposits that you've referenced in the joint checking account, the Wells Fargo joint checking account, that you allege were monies provided by you to Ms. Hodges, would it shock you to know that those were actually reimbursements from Pet Plan for Justice's care?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I'm going to try to get through this, and I think we can finish this unless Ms. Phoenix is going to redirect your client. But Judge, I believe that I'm going to call my client on rebuttal. And if I can do that today, Judge, I think we can close this case and finalize it.
We'll see what, so are you passing this witness?
I'm going to pass the witness, Judge. Let me just, 1 second. Let me make sure I don't have any additional questions regarding an issue that I've overlooked. Very quickly, Judge. Mr. Hodges, you brought up through your testimony a storage unit that Ms. Hodges obtained on February 8th of 2020, which you're alleging was an indication that she wanted you out of the house. And you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall that, in fact, at that time, the Yukon was in an accident and not operable?
That's not correct. She testified in court that it was she was getting a transmission repaired. That's why she was driving my truck on the 6th. So on the 6th, she was driving my truck that got an accident. So on the 8th, she had to be driving a rental car. But go ahead. But she testified last time that she had a transmission repair.
You're right. I stated that wrongly, and I apologize. So at that time, Ms. Hodges was in an accident in the truck, and she had a rental car. Is that right?
Yes.
And she was using the rental car instead of using the Yukon. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And are you aware that she obtained?
Wait, Mrs. Ann. She couldn't use the Yukon because it was a warranty issue with the transmission they was fixing, and she was driving my truck. And when she had an accident on the 6th, then she got a rental car. Go ahead. I just want to make sure we clarify.
So was the Yukon still at the residence at that time?
No, it was at a dealer someplace. A dealer. I think Miss Hodges takes it to the dealer. It was at the dealership. As far as my knowledge, it was at the dealership because that's what the dealer was working on. They had taken her from what she's explained to me, because what she was driving my truck was they was waiting on a part and they had took it apart. That's all I know.
Well, wasn't the whole purpose of the storage unit to put the Yukon in the storage unit so that y'all could park both the rental car and your vehicle, because the homeowners association would not permit parking of vehicles in the street? Isn't that correct, Mr. Hodges?
That would be incorrect, Mr. Zan. Because the Yukon was not there at that time. It was at the dealership. So I never parked in the garage. She always parked in the garage with the Yukon. And so when she got the rental car, she parked the rental car in the garage. My two vehicles, I parked the truck it was gone. So we only had one vehicle at that time, the Prius and a rental car. There was only two vehicles at that time. So the truck was, if it was at a yard and they was deciding if they was going to tow it out, that would be about the 6th. So after on the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, it was at some yard. So we only had two vehicles, my Prius and her rental car.
Okay. And the vehicle that was in the accident, the truck, proceeds were paid out for that truck, correct? From the insurance company. Isn't that right, Mr. Hodges?
Yeah, it was paid. Yes, my truck. My truck I had paid off. I just paid off the year before with that $46,000.
Well, you would agree that that truck was acquired during the marriage, right, Mr. Hodges?
Yes, her car was acquired, just like a Yukon was acquired during the marriage. Yes, sir.
Right. And those insurance proceeds were provided directly to you. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
initially those insurance proceeds were issued to the both of you and Miss Hodges, but you canceled that check and had USAA issue the funds directly to you. Isn't that right?
Can I answer that? The way you present it's not correct what happened, Mrs. Anderson.
Well, did you stop payment on any check issued to both you and Miss Hodges for insurance proceeds, Mr. Hodges?
I stopped payment on a lost check. And I didn't know it was issued to Ms. Hodges until I saw it as part of her discovery. Because it was and before, like my other car, they paid it to me, but I didn't know they was paying. USA lists both of us on them because I pay the insurance, but she's a carrier, an additional person. It's no different than the bank thing.
So you stopped payment and had the funds directly deposited into your account. Isn't that correct, Mr. Hodges?
That would be correct because we couldn't find the check. I kept bugging them, where's the check? Where's the check at? They didn't know where it was. So since I hadn't received it, they stopped there and said, instead of sending it to me, said, we can direct accounts. I had a direct deposit in my account. So the check was lost as far as I knew until I saw it in discovery.
You withdrew those funds and spent the funds, right?
Yes, I bought another vehicle. I bought another truck, Mrs. Ann, yes.
With the full amount of the funds?
No, no, Mrs. Ann. I bought furniture with that funds. That's what I mean. I bought furniture with that funds. I paid off stuff and I put my down payment on my truck, made payments. Yes. Sir.
So you can remember what you did with that cash, but you can't remember what you did with all the other ATM withdrawals that you have within your account. Is that right, Mr. Hodges?
That would be correct, Mrs. Ann, because you asked me a direct question about that money when I used it for it. I bought a truck.
But my question to you, sir, was you can remember what you did with those withdrawal of funds, but you can't remember what you did with all the other withdrawal of funds.
I've said earlier in my previous testimony where I said some of those funds used to pay bills, pay,
So yes or no, Mr. Hodges?
No, I don't recall, Mrs. Ann. That's the best answer. You don't want me to explain, so I can't.
And then you also got a insurance payout for the accident involving your Toyota Prius. Isn't that right, Mr. Hodges?
They paid off the car. Matter of fact, they still remain. They paid off the car. They just paid it off, and I still owe $1,000, which I had to pay that because the value of the car, my finance, they paid off the value of the car, but not the financing part. So I had to pay that off. So
didn't they provide you the funds in the amount of $894, Mr. Hodges?
That was part of the payment of the car. That's part what was left to pay for the car.
What did you do with those proceeds?
Paid the car. I paid what I could on the car. It was like I still owe finance charges on the car. They only paid the value of the car, but not the financing. So I used it to pay the financing.
Didn't you have gap insurance though, Mr. Hodges?
Gap insurance didn't cover the majority of the car. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, gap only covers the value of certain values. The finance was outside of the gap. I just learned about gap insurance. I was shocked to find out you have gap insurance, but it doesn't cover the entire price. It covers a certain amount of it. So the value of the car, I had put this way, what I was owed on the car was more than the car was worth. That's the best way to explain it. So I ended up paying additional finance charges, and I didn't have, so they didn't pay enough. And the accident was considered my fault. So, and it happened right down the street from your office. So I had to go out and buy another Prius for work.
Judge, I'm gonna pass the witness at this time, Your Honor, but I don't know that I'm gonna be able to, based on the time constraint, be able to call my client as a rebuttal and complete this case.
Figure that out in a second. Ms. Phoenix, do you have any redirect?
Just one moment, Judge. Let me look at my.
Well,
notes.
if you do, just let me know what your time estimate is on that, if you don't mind.
And Judge, for rebuttal, I anticipate 5 minutes.
I just have a few questions, Judge.
You think
About 15
15?
15 minutes, it should do it.
All right. So my guess is if we got a 15 minutes redirect, we have maybe, you said 5 minutes, Mr. Zam, let's just say that's 10 just to be safe. That's 25 minutes and then maybe 5 minutes cross with Ms. Hodges. It's about 30 minutes. Closing arguments. 10
Judge,
minutes.
I'll waive closing. We've got our requested relief. I'll waive closing, Judge. I think you've heard plenty.
The problem is I've got a fundraiser thing. I've got not fundraiser, a charity thing I've got to do. So I can't work late tonight. But I'm thinking we probably only need an hour, plus I've got about 1,000 pages that I can't rule without going through all the evidence. So I've got about 1,000 pages. And my concern is I may have exhibit 44, which I was thinking I might like to call a witness out of order and see if that doesn't come in, if it's going to come in, because that's going to be another 100 pages or so. And I'd like to be able to review all the evidence and then let y'all come back, finish, and then I can give you a ruling from the bench. Otherwise, because y'all lose me Friday, and then it's not going to be until January before I'd be able to give you a ruling. So my thought is if we can do an hour either tomorrow or an hour on Friday, if we can get this, if at least get an issue, 2 minutes of a predicate from Ms. Hodges on petitioner's 44, and then that either comes in or it doesn't come in. But once I can rule on that, I think I'll have all the evidence in front of me that I need to review. And then I think, because I'm by myself again tomorrow, and it looks like I've got about 6 or 7 trial settings. Now, obviously I can't hear 6 or 7 trials, but something out of that may go and take me all day. So I'm thinking the safer thing is I bring y'all in for a couple hours on Friday to finish. And so we could do maybe 10:30 on Friday. We could do 1:30 on Friday, but I would say.
Could we do the morning on Friday, Judge?
I think
I have an
that's-
appointment in the afternoon.
I think that's better to do the morning if you can, Ms. Phoenix, so that I can give y'all like 10 to 11:30, and then I'll rule before lunch.
How do I look, Kathy?
You have an entry at 9.
Okay. I just have an entry at 9, Judge. That's it.
Let's do that. All right, I know Mr. Hodges is still on the stand. Ms. Phoenix, you may redirect him, and that's where we're going to pick up on Friday at 10 a.m. But I want to let Ms. Hodges be called out of order by Mr. Zan just for the rebuttal exhibit, just to see whether or not it comes in. So Mr. Zan, but keep it, I mean, we got to close. It's 5 o'clock.
Very brief, Judge.
Zan, keep it brief and just stick to petitioners 44. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Hodges, would you please unmute yourself, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Hodges, can you tell the court what joint account do you and Mr. Hodges maintain with Wells Fargo?
The account ending in 3320.
And you've heard testimony from Mr. Hodges regarding funds that he's provided to you that were deposited allegedly by you into that account. Can you tell the court if that's accurate or not?
No, sir, it's not accurate.
And regarding the account ending in 3320 with Wells Fargo, can you tell the court how that account was created and set up?
It was originally my single account. And then in 2015, when he started the business, because he was giving me checks, I could not deposit them into my account. So, because it was like a third-party check written to him. So he and I went into the bank. We discussed with the bank branch manager how to handle that. And she said the easiest thing to do was.
Objection, hearsay.
Just tell the court how the account was established with Mr. Hodges as a joint user or a co-signer on that account.
He signed the bank document, provided his driver's license to the branch manager, signed some documents, and he was added to the account. Okay. So it then at that point became a joint account.
All right, and I'm going to show you what's been previously marked, and may I share my screen, Judge, so the witness knows what I'm referencing? Share with you what's been previously marked as your rebuttal exhibit number 44.
Okay.
And can you tell the court what this document is?
It's a copy of a deposit into the joint account of a check for $96.
Well, no, the complete document, not what just this page is, but the complete
Oh, I'm
document.
sorry. It's a document that was provided to me by Wells Fargo showing a deposit, the check, and then the actual, I believe the next part is the bank's like ticket for the deposit.
And were these checks, these are copies of checks, Ms. Hodges, so we can be clear for the court. These are copies of checks deposited into you and Mr. Hodges' joint checking account ending in 3320. Is that right, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
And and how did you obtain this document, Ms. Hodges?
This is a reimbursement from,
No,
Why,
Ms.
Jen?
Hodges, the document. How did
Oh,
you
I'm sorry.
obtain the document?
I thought you meant the check. Pardon
No.
me. How I obtained them, I put a request into Wells Fargo for the copies of these particular checks.
And
deposits.
and to obtain this document, you have to provide secure username, password, identifiers to obtain this information from Wells Fargo, Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
And has this document been altered in any way, ma'am?
No, sir.
Does this reflect a true and accurate copy of the document you received from Wells Fargo evidencing the copies of checks you deposited into your joint Wells Fargo checking account with Mr. Hodges?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would offer this as petitioner's rebuttal exhibit number 44.
Any objections?
Yes, Judge, I'm going to object to this exhibit. There's nothing that states that this exhibit, that these are the, oops, I'm sorry, let me go down so I can see you. Hold on. Oh, okay. There's nothing, Judge, that indicates exactly what this exhibit consists of. And there's no indication of what she requested from the bank. It's just random checks and different dates, but there's nothing that says this is an exhibit that evidences only deposits made into that account, Judge. It's not clear what this is really. It's just random copies of checks. So I'm going to object to it on that, from that point of view, Judge.
Okay.
And she didn't tie, and she also didn't, she being the witness, did not tie these checks to specific statements, Judge, bank statements. They're just random copies.
All right, the objections to petitioners 44 are overruled. Petitioners 44 is admitted. And with that, we're going to go ahead and break for the day. We'll resume Friday, the 17th at 10 a.m. Y'all can report directly into my Zoom because Judge Heppard will be back that day. So we'll just plan on resuming at 10 a.m. Lawyers, please understand that that's literally the last day we have. So I think based on your time estimates, I'm going to be able to give you plenty of time to finish. But if not, it's going to be January. We're going off the record. All right, thank you all. We'll see y'all back here 10 a.m. Friday.